Point Park basketball honored their seniors in preparation for playoffs. Track and field women's team prepared to win their 6th straight RSC championship, while the men look to bring in their 5th of their last 6. The Pirates look ahead to spring training, while the Pens hit the West Coast. The NFL season is finally over as focus now shifts over to the NHL. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Hello and welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Natalie Hillen. The Point Park University's men's and women's basketball teams played at home against Carlo this past Saturday at CCAC Allegheny, and both teams took the dubs and celebrated their graduating seniors. For the men's team, Point Park recognized seniors Sharon Schifino and Kyrie Coates, and for the women's team, seniors Jordan Yaniga, Sierra Sinetta, Taylor Wren, Jordan O'Malley, and Tanner Hofer before their games. Congratulations on all of your achievements and good luck in all of your future endeavors. You all have worked so hard and have bright futures ahead of you. Winning the RSC matchup against Carlo got the Pioneers to 14-2 in their regular season. After the regular season game this Saturday, Point Park will be back at home for the start of conference playoffs. The Pioneers started the game off strong after getting a 22-6 lead. Before the half, Point Park had a 20-1 run. With 10 minutes left, Point Park held back Carlo from shooting a field goal for 8 minutes total and built their lead 46-17 with a layup shot by Mahaly Chiffons. And with a 24-6 run and Carlo being able to hold the 17% shooting, the Pioneers had a big lead going into the second half, 50-22. Jag Jawar had a double-double by halftime and finished with 10 points and 13 rebounds. Nate Van got 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists, and Malcolm Murphy had 11 points and 10 boards. In the first 5 minutes of the second half, Point Park was leading 71-31. Before the backup players were put in, Jalen Stamps led the starters with 18 points, had 5 rebounds and 5 assists, and Joe Valerie got 16 points. The Pioneers won the game 97-49. Switching gears over to the women's team as they also took on the Celtics at CCAC Allegheny. In the final matchup against Carlo, the Pioneers started off strong with a lead of 26-14 at the end of the first quarter. Sinetta shot an early three-pointer, and Alexis Giles had all 3 trays in the first half. Point Park shot 62% and made 4 for 8 from the arc in the first quarter. Taylor Wren got her second and 1 situation of the game and took the lead 34-18 in the second quarter. And at the break was ahead 48-35. Key players were Sierra Sinetta, who had a career high of 27 points and made 7 three-pointers, which was just 2 off the Point Park single-game record. And she made 10 of 17 fields. Sinetta is now 10th place in Point Park record book for three-pointers and now has 115 for her career. Emma Pavlik with 19 points and 5 assists, Ari Bleda with 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists, and Alexa Giles with 14 points and was 3 for 6 from long range. Carlo got a 19-11 run in the third quarter and got 59-54 going into the fourth. The Pioneers outscored Carlo over the last 10 minutes and made 67% from the field. Carlo shot 33% and Point Park made 12 three-pointers, shooting 39% long range. The final score of the game was 93-65 Point Park. Both the men's and women's teams have their next big game Saturday, February 18th at Ohio Christian. Good luck to both teams. After the break, we hear from how the track team did last weekend to prepare for the RSC Indoor Track and Field Championship. Welcome back. Now let's hear from Hannah Bazet to give us some insight on how the track team did this past weekend at Baldwin Wallace and Spire. Hannah?
Thanks, Nat. It was a busy weekend for the men's and women's track teams as both teams competed at 2 different meets on 2 different days. Only a select few members of the team traveled to the Baldwin Wallace mid-February meet on Friday. There, Peter Durando broke the school record in the 55-meter hurdles and won the pole vault competition. Durando posted a time of 8.12 seconds in the 55-meter hurdles, giving him second in finals. In pole vault, he cleared a height of 3.75 meters. He is currently ranked 3rd in the River States Conference for pole vaulting with a season best of 3.95 meters. Representing the women's team, Emma Pavlik qualified for the NAIA Indoor National Championship with her high jump. This will be Pavlik's 2nd year in a row competing in the NAIA Nationals for the high jump and her 3rd time there overall. Last year, Pavlik placed 2nd. Her leap of 1.64 meters also gave her 1st place in the meet. Sideline's own Natalia Hillen also competed, where she placed 4th and PR'd with a height of 1.52 meters. Finally, Jordan Yaniga placed 2nd in the 200 meters with a time of 27.64 seconds, and Pavlik was right on her heels, taking 3rd at 27.94 seconds. The following day, the full team traveled back to Geneva, Ohio, where they competed in the Spire Indoor Collegiate Games. Starting off with the men's team, Jacorius Dems broke the school record in the 200 meters with his time of 22.05 seconds. He also won 5th place with this meet. In the 600 meters, Elijah James ran 1 minute and 21.67 seconds for a 4th place finish and broke a school record that stood for 7 years in the process. He was just 0.10 seconds off of the NAIA standard. The mid-distance crew had more PRs in the mile, with Gabe Ebersol at 4 minutes and 48 seconds and Jordan Cullen at 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Cullen also PR'd in the 800 with a time of 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Damir Stewart led the Pioneers in the 60 meters, running 6.93 seconds for a 5th place finish. Damir Lomax also PR'd with a time of 7.01 seconds for 8th place, and Demps came in at 7.10 seconds. In the 400, 3 Pioneers PR'd. This included Toby Wright at 51.27 seconds, Darnell Clem at 51.29 seconds, and Tyler Hare at 51.51 seconds. Lomax took over the #1 spot in the River States Conference with a 60-meter hurdles time of 8.71 seconds. Tyler Hertwig PR'd in the high jump, clearing 1.75 meters, and Collins Eze had the highest placement of the day in the triple jump with his leap of 13.82 meters. Switching gears to the women's team, Hillen broke the school record she had set from earlier in the season in the 60-meter hurdles. She ran a time of 9.22 seconds, which gave her 6th place and was 0.06 seconds faster than her previous school record. Hillen is now ranked 2nd in the RSC. Hillen also led the Pioneers in the 200 meters, running 26.92 seconds, her best time for this semester. Following behind was Hannah Bond at 27.66 seconds and Rakia Ellsbury at 27.72 seconds, a PR for the both of them. Ellsbury also led the Pioneers in the 60 meters, running a time of 8.40 seconds. Also competing in the event was Michaela Rice, who ran a time of 8.52 seconds, and Ashanti Farron at 8.56 seconds. Rice also did the long jump with a team best of 4.67 meters. Finally, Luciana Lubin PR'd in the triple jump at 10.17 meters to lead the Pioneers in the event. We are so proud of our Pioneers. The track team is back at it again Saturday, February 18th, where they will compete in the RSC Indoor Track and Field Championship. This is their biggest meet so far this season, and we are sending them a lot of well wishes as they compete in Logan, Ohio.
Thanks, Hannah. After the break, we'll get some insight on how the rest of the sports world is doing. Stay tuned.
Hey!
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. My name is Craig Frykowski.
Tonight, we'll cover all your international, national, and local news.
Australia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet.
Over 8,000 items are to be auctioned off at Pittsburgh International Airport on October 22nd. Last Thursday, the House committee investigating the January 6th attack chose to subpoena former President Donald Trump.
All this and more
Coming up on
Newsnight.
Newsnight. Welcome back. Now we hear from John Mayer about all things going on locally. John?
Thanks, Nat. Today's local sports news starts with a recent post from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quote, 23-23 season starts now. Let's get to work. Hashtag here we go. This post was made not too long after the ending of the big game. In other Steelers news, Captain Cameron Hayward was the team's representative for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award this past weekend, and the honor ended up going to Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. Even though Cam did not win the award this year, an award is not needed to justify the tireless work Cam puts in throughout the entire Pittsburgh community, and it does not go unnoticed. If you're a Steeler fan, let alone a football fan like me, then you are too excited for the football season to begin. Speaking of the word excited, things are happening, including the 2023 draft, which takes place this April, which is not too far away. As introduced for the first time to some last show, Pittsburgh Passion will start their season this April against the DC Divas. Following that game, the Passion will have a home opener against the Tampa Bay Inferno this May. The Passion has 6 overall games for their 2023 season, excluding any future championship games. The Passion has won 1 national championship on top of 4 divisional championships. Moving on to soccer news, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds have an upcoming game this March against Birmingham Legion FC, with a long season ahead of them, with their last game for the regular season ending in October. Also, the Riverhounds signed goalkeeper Christian Gardner, who will join them for this season on a 1-year contract. Gardner recently played for and ended his last season with the Northwestern Wildcats and will be making his way to the city of black and gold. Now, a little insight on Pirates baseball. It's that time of year with the Buccos head to Bradenton, with pitchers and catchers officially reporting tomorrow. As for the Penguins, they came out with a split on the West Coast after an overtime win at home over the defending champion Avalanche, defeating Anaheim 6-3 and falling to Los Angeles 6-0. That's all for local news. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, John. Now let's send things over to Jacob Kubik to update us on how the rest of the sports world is doing nationally. Jacob?
Thanks, Nat. Another season has officially come and gone in the NFL, when the 57th edition of the big game was played between the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The Eagles jumped out to a lead with a Jalen Hurts score, but the connection of Mahomes to Kelsey is one that is too good for anyone to stop, as they tied the game early, 7-7. Early on in the first quarter, Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker doinked a kick late in the first quarter, which kept the game deadlocked at 7 apiece through 15 minutes. The first play of the second quarter, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts found A.J. Brown in the end zone 45 yards down the field for a 7-point lead. Just when Philly may have driven down the field, Hurts fumbled the ball, and Kansas City defender Nick Bolton ran back the scoop and score to deadlock the game once again, this time at 14. Jalen Hurts ran in his second touchdown of the half, third total, to boost the Eagles back up to a 7-point lead. After a late second field goal from kickers Jake Elliott, the Eagles' lead was at 10. With Patrick Mahomes' status up in the air after re-injuring his ankle, how would the Chiefs respond coming out of the half? Only by putting up a 10-play, 75-yard drive in 5.5 minutes to cut the Eagles' lead to 3 once again. The Eagles responded by scoring another 3 points of their own to boost their lead back up to 6 points. Entering the final 15 minutes of the season, both teams would exchange haymakers with the hopes of lifting the Lombardi, which made for must-see TV. Kansas City pulled ahead for their first lead after a 9-play, 75-yard drive to make the score 28-27. Philly failed to register any pressure, punting the ball right back to Kansas City, who ran the punt down to the 5-yard line. New Kensington, PA native Sky Moore scored to make the Chiefs lead 8 points. Philadelphia put together one of their best drives of the day when they needed it most, capped off by a Hurts' third rushing touchdown of the day, 4th overall. After a successful 2-point conversion, the score was 35-35 late in the 4th quarter. Kansas City got the ball back, drove down the field and into the red zone. The Chiefs benefited by a borderline holding penalty, depending on which fan base you talk to. The Chiefs then melted down the clock to inside 20 seconds and kicked the championship-clinching score. Kansas City won the game by a final score of 38-35. Patrick Mahomes was named MVP of the game. Now that the NFL will be dormant until draft day, other than notable signings, let's switch gears to the National Hockey League and see what the standings are currently. The Boston Bruins continue to roll with the #1 spot in the Atlantic Division and the league. However, as of this show, the Bruins are 6-3-1 in their last 10, cooling down from their scorching start from the first half of the season. The Metropolitan Division leading Carolina Hurricanes are currently only 7 points behind the top spot in the league, and have been hot recently, going 8-1-1 in their last 10. The Devils and Rangers occupy the 2 and 3 seeds in the Metropolitan Division, and the Maple Leafs and Lightning occupy the 2 and 3 seeds. The Capitals and hometown Penguins hold the final 2 wildcard spots at the moment, but this is sure to change as the season moves forward. In the Western Conference, the best record is held by the Central Division leading Dallas Stars. Dallas's 70 points ranks as the 6th best record in the league, which speaks to the depth of the Eastern Conference. The Vegas Golden Knights hold the top spot in the Pacific by just 1 point, leading the Los Angeles Kings, and the Seattle Kraken by 3 points. The Winnipeg Jets and Minnesota Wild are the 2 and 3 seeds in the Central Division, respectively. The 2 Alberta teams round out the wild cards in the West, with Edmonton holding a 4-point advantage over the Flames. The defending, can we just start at the defending? Right there. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2. The defending champion Colorado Avalanche currently sit 1 point out of the postseason. If the results hold in the West and the Avalanche do miss the postseason, they would be the first team since the 2014 Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings to miss the postseason following the 2014-2015 campaign. However, as mentioned before, there is still plenty of season to be played. That's all I have. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, Jacob. After the break, we come back with the case of the week. Stay tuned.
Regular physical activity is one of the most important things you can do for your health. The benefits of physical activity include brain health, weight management, reducing disease, strengthening your bones and muscles, and improving your ability to do everyday activities. So, it's time to get up and be active.
Welcome back. The Pirates are getting closer to the start of the spring training while the regular season slowly approaches. After the Pirates' rough season last year, we are here to discuss what the Bucks could possibly change to make it back to their winning ways. Today I'm joined by Joey, Jacob, and John to hear what they have to think about everything. So I'm going to start with Joey. What do the Pirates need to do this season to be successful in their plays?
So one of the main things that I think a lot of us can agree on is the Pirates need to strengthen their starting rotation. We have Mitch Keller, who I'm a huge fan of. He, in my opinion, is the best pitcher we have in our rotation so far. JT Brubaker. We have Rich Hill. Trying to think of who else. Rosany Contreras and who is it? Vince Velasquez. Sorry, we just got him from the White Sox. I couldn't remember who his name was. Rich Hill is, I think, 50 years old, if not close to it. So I'm not really sure why he's on our starting five. Mitch Keller, I mean, I've been a huge Mitch Keller guy since he joined the organization. I think he's our one. JT Brubaker is really good, but the rest is like, all right. Rosany's kind of up and down. But I think maybe adding in another piece or two. I might get a little bit of flack for this, but I'm a huge Trevor Bauer guy. He likes the city of Pittsburgh. He's really, really good. We could sign him for a minimum deal of like $720,000. So I think if we get him maybe for like 3 years, around like the $3.5 million area, I think he'd be a huge addition to our roster, especially bringing the type of energy that he has. Former Cy Young winner with the Reds. So I don't know. I think strengthening our starting rotation is definitely one of the key things, on top of a few others, but rotation for sure.
Well, I'll mention one of the other things that you didn't mention. You mentioned starting rotation. I'll say the bullpen, because the bullpen, especially later in the season, on top of injuries and just not knowing, like there was a point in the season where I would turn on the Pirates game and I wouldn't even like know who this pitcher was. They'd say that he just came up from Indianapolis or something like that. Don't get me wrong, Bednar's a very solid closer whenever he was healthy last year. He started the season hot, he got hurt, and he finished the season pretty good too. But I feel like they really need to bring in some solid bullpen relief, especially since the game for starting pitchers now is getting shorter. They're not going 6, 7, 8 innings consistently. They're more or less going 4, 5, and 6, which then taxes the bullpen. So I think you need to get a couple of names. They don't have to be like, they don't have to be $10 million a year pitchers, but if you can get a couple of names in the bullpen to help you out, that could really pay dividends later in the season.
I feel like you're forgetting to mention one of the greatest bullpen pitchers in Pirates history, Dwayne Underwood Jr.
The Pirates need to invest in getting some new players on this team if they want a successful year. John?
I agree. They need to invest more. Although I did like some of the investments they made in free agency. A lot of the guys, Carlos Santana, Andrew McCutchen himself said on Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, Football with Ben, his job is really to mentor these guys. They have a young team. I feel like they lacked some veteran leadership. Bringing in these guys, Santana, McCutchen, Hill, as you mentioned, I feel like some of these veterans could have the Pirates potentially possibly pushing for a playoff spot. However, that rotation, as you just said, a lot of question marks there. Mitch Keller is a huge X factor. Could he live up to the potential he had as a top prospect coming out of the Pirates organization and be that ace? We'll see. But I believe he's a huge X factor, along with a couple other guys on the staff. But I think the Pirates, McCutchen, Choi, G-Man Choi even, they got some guys as free agency, so they got the veterans to help mentor this young team.
Speaking of McCutchen, he's such a Pittsburgh icon still. He went to the Brewers. How do we feel about him being back, and what do you think he's going to do for our team this season?
So I think I'm going to mention his press conference that he had whenever he came back. He said he's not just here to play baseball and end his career. He's here to win. And honestly, I firmly believe that. Kutch has bounced around the league. He went to the Giants. He went to the Yankees, the Brewers, like you mentioned. Now he's back in Pittsburgh where he belongs. I still think he lives up to his potential. He had some really, really good stats last year. He got, I think, almost 30 home runs or close to it. I don't want to say he's still the same guy that he was back in the day, but he looks good, especially after how he played last year. I think one of the main things to take into consideration is Brian Reynolds is still up in the air. I know they were talking about a couple different things, but I think signing Kutch might have bolstered Brian Reynolds' decision of staying in Pittsburgh. I'm sure he doesn't want to go. I know that the Pirates and Brian Reynolds are kind of at a disagreement right now. They're kind of missing some numbers, but I think signing Kutch and bringing that type of energy and that type of player back into the locker room might have secured Brian Reynolds. So I think acquiring Kutch again was definitely a huge thing, not just for Pirates fans and the team, but the players around him. He's that type of guy.
I was going to say, not only just the team, but the Pittsburgh fans. I remember getting that tweet, McCutchen signed for a year with the Pirates. I was so happy. So that was awesome seeing that. especially growing up watching the Pirates going to baseball games. It was just like a relief seeing that he was back on the team.
Yeah, I'm going to take two of the things that you mentioned out of McCutcheon's press conference is, he came here to win. The Pirates haven't had a winning record since 2018, and that record was 82-79. So it was really close to being a 500 season, but it was a winning season. And the Pirates hit 158 home runs last year. That ranked 10th out of 15 National League teams. So having McCutcheon, albeit he's not, like, obviously we can't really say that he wasn't the McCutcheon of old. We don't know. We haven't seen him play yet. But you have to assume that he's going to boost the offense in some sort of way, whether it be driving in runs or just getting hits, like timely hits. So I feel like you need a couple extra hitters. Getting McCutcheon could be a big boost for the team and team morale, but you need to also build around McCutcheon as well if you want to sign him for, say, maybe 3 or 4 more years.
Yeah, he's nearing the end of his career, but I believe the home run total is still there. The average is a little low, but Kutch is still Kutch. He's not the same player as he once was, but bringing him in, a veteran guy for this young team, I believe it's really going to help. And another little nugget, how cool would it be? Well, it's going to happen likely. Brian Reynolds, they acquired him in that Andrew McCutcheon trade from San Francisco. Now, potentially, as long as they don't trade him, we're going to see them together in the same outfield. So who would have thought that? But that's enough. That's something pretty cool. But I definitely, Kutch in the field, we'll see. I believe it's more of a DH role, but I believe adding his bat, it's going to add some impact to the lineup for sure.
My last question, how do we think the coaching staff and the managers are going to run this team this year? Do you think it's going to be better than it has been previously, or kind of going back to the same?
So as far as I know, we haven't changed any of the coaching staff from last year, unless I'm wrong. Well, our record last year was 62-100. I was actually at loss 100 last year. I don't really know how the coaching staff will play out this year. Like we mentioned, a couple new guys have been added. So depending on how they play throughout the team, it might, vary a little bit. But I was a big Clint Hurdle guy, and everyone shut Clint Hurdle out really late in the season and then got rid of him. So I'm honestly not 100% sure. But I think with the new additions, we might be able to do a little bit better than we did last year.
I think the biggest thing is really going to get determined. It's a long season. I mean, baseball regular season goes from the beginning of April to the end of September. So I feel like you got to start strong, because if you start bad, then it's really just going to be like, you're going to look at every game and it's going to be like, oh, that's a loss. Oh, that's a loss. So if you can maybe start with a couple of wins and maybe have a 500 record getting out of April, maybe getting out of May, just kind of giving the fans a little reason to come to the ballpark in the summertime. I feel like that's going to go a long way with coaching staff, with team, everything like that. So I think it's not going to be an immediate determination. It's really going to be like how they play and how everyone kind of gels together.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's unfair to judge Derek Shelton based off what he's been given from ownership. Again, they added some guys this year, so we'll see. I'd like to see them invest more, but we'll see. Derek Shelton, I believe this is a make-or-break year for him. He's had a couple rough seasons to begin his career with the Pirates. I believe after they went out and got some guys, this is a big year for him.
I'm really excited to watch the game, the opener.
I have one more thing, actually, before we go. We have a lot of young guys that I didn't even mention while we were talking before. Tamar Johnson, we have Henry Davis, Endy Rodriguez, and Quinn Priester. I think calling those guys up, Endy Rodriguez, I don't think a lot of people know this. He's a triple threat athlete. He can catch. He plays in the infield and the outfield. Yep. Henry Davis, all-star catcher.
First overall pick.
Tamar Johnson, second base. I believe he was a first overall pick as well this past year.
Yeah.
A lot of these younger guys that not a lot of people are talking about, not a lot of people know about, they're the future. And especially when we were talking about bringing Kutch. I think bringing Kutch back and then calling up these younger guys later in the season will definitely fully bolster our roster. And I don't want to say it here, but you heard it here first. Pirates will make a wild card within the next 2 years. You heard it here first.
I like the optimism.
Don't sleep on Anthony Salamento either. Top prospect coming out. He could be something special. So top pitching prospect, second-round pick in the draft that they got Henry Davis. So he's a stud.
Future's bright for the Buccos. That's all I got to say.
Let's hope.
Well, I'm excited to see this game, the opener on Friday, April 7th at 4:12 p.m. Let's see this team get together. I'm hoping for some wins.
Absolutely.
A lot more wins than last season.
Yes.
Well, that is all that we have time for this week. We hope you are able to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer sideline.